Yo, what up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Pnoid News. Man, listen, all right, I'll be honest with you. This is a story I've been wanting to cover since I heard about it earlier this week on like Monday or Tuesday. I've been busy. Like, it is what it is. I've been busy. I've been working my balls off. I put in like 3 14-hour days this week. Like, it's been a rough week. So, cops are snatching money out of armored vehicles. And keeping it under civil asset forfeiture. This is fucking great. Legit. Like, our justice system is so terrible. All right. So this is from the Missouri Independent. How a Kansas traffic stop led to the federal lawsuit over $1.2 million in seized marijuana profits. An armored vehicle was carrying $165,000 in cash from marijuana dispensaries in Missouri when it was stopped by law enforcement, right? The dashboard camera shows eastbound Interstate 70 traffic whizzing by Dickinson County Sheriff's Deputy Kalen Robinson's patrol car, which is parked crosswise in a median about 3 miles west off of Abilene. Robinson suddenly pulls out into the left lane, accelerates rapidly within a couple of miles, pulls behind a white van, which immediately moves onto the shoulder and stops. As he walks up to the passenger side window of the van, which turns out to be an armored vehicle, he tells dispatcher he believes the van has Colorado plates. Robinson tells the driver he pulled over the driver because the tag was partially obscured, and then asks what she is hauling. From this traffic stop, a series of events unspooled that resulted in more than $1.2 million being seized in what an attorney describes in a court filing as the repeated and continuing highway robberies of armored cars by government agents. And they're not wrong. Legit, they're not wrong. The next day, May 18, 2021, Robinson again stopped the van, this time seizing more than $165,000. By that time, law enforcement officials had placed tag numbers in vehicles owned by Imperial Logistics, the armored car vehicle company, into a national database that allows high-speed computerized license plate readers to scan traffic and spot the vehicles. On November 16th, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department stopped another Imperial armored vehicle and seized about $700,000. On December 9th, the San Bernardino officers again stopped an Imperial armored vehicle, this time seizing about $350,000. The basis for the seizures, according to Imperial, the armored cars are transporting cash from state-licensed marijuana dispensaries to financial institutions such as credit unions or banks. That's right, folks. These medical marijuana dispensaries are trying to transport their cash, to banks so that they can, pay their bills and taxes and all the things they're supposed to do. And the armored cars are getting fucking popped by the police, and the police are pocketing the cash. It's beautiful. Okay, so shocked isn't the half of it, said Deidre O'Gorman, Imperial's founder and CEO, describing her reaction on learning that the money from one company's armored cars has been seized in Kansas. I've been a banker my entire career, 26 years in the banking industry. After the California seizures, Imperial filed a federal lawsuit against several law enforcement agencies demanding the federal government stop these highway robberies. On Monday, the court denied Imperial's request for a temporary restraining order. The court is compelled to express its concerns regarding Imperial's litigation tactics, Judge John W. Holbrook wrote. He said, they said the lawyers for Imperials are arguing on behalf of the CEO of a company. Literally, that's what the judge said, right? That's why he denied the temporary restraining order, right? Is because the lawyer was arguing on behalf of the plaintiff. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. Just think about that. Holgram advised attorneys for Imperials to stop cutting procedural corners and reminded them their obligation to be candid with the court. Information gathered from interviews, court documents, police reports, and a viewing of the dashboard camera's video expose conflict between federal and state laws regarding marijuana and their eagerness of law enforcement officials to justify their urge to smash Imperial into submission. O'Gorman established Imperial in June 2018 in the Denver area. Today it operates in 28 states. I had decided to start Imperial with hopes of trying to fix some of the challenges that I experienced on the other side of the service model. Being a financial institution working with armored car companies, O'Gorman said, I have prided myself on my career being focused on compliance and helping financial institutions with their Bank Secrecy Act and anti-money laundering compliance. It's been everything that we do in every part of the equation for us, making sure that we're following the rules. O'Gorman said that many people think that there are no banks or other financial institutions that will accept money from marijuana dispensaries. There are many that will, at least 700 nationwide, she said. But the banks impose rigorous reporting and record-keeping requirements. It's a pretty hefty compliance list, she said. There are background checks, verification of where the money comes from, where it goes, the monitoring of who gets paid. All of these things are scrutinized at a level that in my 26-year bank career I've never seen before, she said. Gorman said she is careful only to work with financial institutions that allow these stringent guidelines. The seizures by law enforcement arise from the fact that while 18 states have legalized recreational marijuana use and its medicinal use is legal in 36 states, the federal government still considers both medicinal and recreational federal marijuana as illegal. So does Kansas. Seizing cash, vehicles, and weapons passing through Kansas has become a high-stakes activity, according to Kansas Bureau of Investigation data. Kansas law enforcement agencies since 2019 have seized 8 million, nearly all from motorists, with the Kansas Highway Patrol accounting for half of the forfeitures. That's only from the cases that have been resolved. It can take years for the disposition of seized cash and vehicles to be determined, and it's not until disposition that the details are reported to KBI. So I should probably explain what exactly is going on, right? So, civil asset forfeitures, all right, are laws federally and state-wise that allow for, if the state says or a local cop says that like there's some illegal activity going on, they don't have to charge you. They can take your money or your property and then basically they charge the money with the complaint, and then you have to prove that the money was like legal. You had to hire a lawyer for your money or your property to get it back, right? And this takes years. And like most people just don't like, if you have $2,000 in cash that you're taking to go buy a car, right? And like a cop pulls you over on a highway because you didn't use your blinker or some shit. And the cop takes that $2,000 in cash and says, oh, this is illegal. This is illegal money. It's used to buy drugs. They can take your fucking money and just keep it. Simple. And then it's used for the local law enforcement, like, to like buy, whatever, chairs or, office equipment or guns or whatever they want to buy. You know what I mean? Like some cops have been buying like, cappuccino makers and pool tables and, whatever they want in their fucking, their police office and shit. So, all right. So civil forfeitures are a process that allow law enforcement agencies to seize cash, vehicles, personal properties, real estate, and weapons they suspect have been involved in a crime. They don't have to arrest the owner or convict them of a crime. Half the money seized in Kansas since 2019, more than $4 million, was forfeited without a criminal case being filed. It's basically literally like they just rob you, right? The officials need only to demonstrate a connection between the property and the crime, but they're supposed to have a legitimate reason for making a traffic stop. The Fourth Amendment requires at least reasonable suspicion or probable cause to stop a vehicle, said Dan Albin, senior attorney with the nonprofit Institute for Justice, which is helping represent Imperial in the California lawsuit. The way highway interdiction works is that you get behind a vehicle, you come up with the excuse to pull it over. If you follow someone long enough, they are going to commit some type of minor traffic infraction. The request filed under the Kansas Open Records Act for copies of reports and recordings made by the dashboard camera were partially granted. There was no offense report written for the May 17th stop, but a copy of the offense report for May 18th stop and seizure was provided, and a reporter was allowed to view the recorded video. During the first stop, it didn't take Robinson long to pull over the Imperial van, and he wasted no time asking the driver what was in the van and where she was going. The driver quickly explained she was on her way to pick up cash from marijuana dispensaries in Missouri and drive it back to Colorado. She explained exactly how the money is stored and invited Robinson to see the inside for himself. O'Gorman said all the company's drivers undergo extensive training on how to interact with law enforcement. The company's chief of operations is a former sheriff. We are very transparent about what we are doing, O'Gorman said. A fundamental goal is to help law enforcement understand the purpose of her armored cars. We know that it's a complicated patchwork of rules and regulations. We want to make sure that everybody understands. In this case, that effort was not successful. The driver's candor set off a flurry of calls between Robertson and the Drug Enforcement Administration and the U.S. Attorney's Office in Wichita, what can be heard in the video recording. After some initial head scratching, Drug Enforcement Administration agent Brian Wheeler admitted to being puzzled. He said, "I don't think it's necessary or legal," he told Robinson. "It's just strange as hell. It seems like they're a bank operating not as a bank." The authorities are aware that medicinal marijuana is legal in Missouri, but a few minutes later, Wheeler throws out a reason why the activity is prohibited. Wheeler calls Robinson and claims the cannabis proceeds must stay in the state where the cannabis is legal and cannot be transported across state lines, said David Bass, a former deputy attorney in California who worked for the Financial Fraud and Special Prosecutions Unit. In a declaration filed on behalf of Imperial in the California court, this is incorrect. Based on any professional experience, there is no law indicating that the proceeds become illegal when they leave a state. In a phone call to Robinson, Wheeler continues to try to come up with a way to identify exactly what is illegal about the armored car taking money from Missouri businesses to deposit in a financial institution in Colorado. At one point in the conversation, Wheeler claims that Imperial's operation are bulk cash smuggling, Bass said in his declaration. Like, yo, they're just trying to come up with a reason to take this money. Like, legit, that's all they're doing. They're just standing here going like, oh, we got to have some way to take this money. Like, yo, we can't just let them have this money. I mean, because it's money, and we want it. Like, yo, so we're going to try and figure out a way to just steal it from you. We don't give a fuck. O'Gorman said that the confusion by law enforcement is exactly what the training of the company's drivers is intended to avoid. We only work with financial institutions that offer services to cannabis businesses, he said. We have Imperial go pick up the funds after they have been validated by the bank or credit union, and then we bring those funds back to financial institutions. So we're working with them only after all the due diligence has been done to make sure that those funds came from lawful sales. She was baffled by the money laundering speculation. If they thought there was money laundering occurring, why wouldn't they have contacted the financial institutions, she said. Why would they have confiscated funds at the business? The conversations between Robinson and Wheeler became animated. They assured themselves that this was a genuinely illegal operation, and it was clear Imperial's armored cars were ferrying cash in half the states in the country. They discussed putting tag numbers from Imperial's armored cars into a national database that allows law enforcement officers to use high-speed license plate readers to spot Imperial vans across the country. Smash them into submission, Wheeler said. Bass described some of the conversation in his declaration. After deciding to place all of Imperial vehicles into the license plate reader, Agent Wheeler notes that Imperial would fight the seizures, but law enforcement should crush every one of their cars that they can identify. Bass said, agreeing with the agents. Wheeler's plan around the 3650 market recording, Officer Robinson states, "We start taking them all down at once." Robinson, when told the Imperial driver that she was free to go, but not before volunteering to remove the offending license plate frame. The next day, the van headed back to Colorado after making stops to pick up cash from Missouri dispensaries. Robinson pulled the van over near the Enterprise exit on I-70. The traffic stop took nearly 3 hours. The sheriff's office seized 5 bags of cash that, according to the office report filed in connection with the case, contained $165,855. Albin, the Legal Institute for Justice attorney, hopes to show the DEA failed to stay in its lane. Federal law prohibits the United States Department of Justice, the parent agency, the DEA, and FBI, among others, from spending money to prevent states from implementing their own state laws that authorize the use, distribution, possession, or cultivation of medical marijuana. The prohibition was originally known as the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment and became law in 2014. The restriction has been attached to a DOJ funding every year since. I think that this case, Rohrabacher-Farr, presents a really serious problem for them because they knew that from the time of the May 17th stop that the driver was going to visit medical cannabis dispensaries in Kansas City, Missouri, Albin said. They had the names of those dispensaries on the manifest, and they should have known that Missouri does not have recreational cannabis. The only cannabis dispensaries operating legally with a state license in Missouri are going to be medical cannabis dispensaries. The Kansas City Star reported in November that the manifest for the trip lists 4 medical marijuana dispensaries in Missouri, based on Wellness, Smithville, and 2 from Earth locations in Kansas City and another in Independence. The fact that the stop was in Kansas, which was not legalized marijuana use, is of no consequence, Albin said, because no matter where the seizure takes place, it harms legally operating cannabis businesses. This thing is fucking long. Jesus Christ. After the May 17th stop, they went and did the surveillance on May 18th, Kansas City of Imperial vehicle, picking up the proceeds from the dispensaries, Albin said. From the very get-go, they knew it was medical cannabis, and they would be seizing medical cannabis proceeds, and they are not supposed to be spending any funds to do that, including spending money on surveillance outside of medical cannabis dispensaries in Missouri, Albin said. On September 3rd, 2021, the U.S. Attorney Office filed a civil forfeiture case in federal court in Kansas City, asking the court to let it keep $165,620 taken from the Imperial armored car. Requests for interviews with law enforcement officials were refused. The Dickinson County Sheriff's Office said the case has been turned over to the Drug Enforcement Administration. A DAA spokesperson reported all inquiries. The U.S. Attorney's Office, Daniel Thomas, Public Information Officer, U.S. Attorney Office in Wichita, declined to answer any questions. We don't discuss open cases, she said. Jesus Christ. And here's the crazy thing about this. That money, once it goes to the feds, it will get kicked back down to the local offices for the police once the case is solved and settled. And if that's not fucking crazy to you, if this is not an insane story, I don't know what to tell you. Right. But like, I wanted to bring this to you because like, I found it to be hilarious. And why'd I read the whole thing? Because I want you to have all the context. Because like, I'm a news station, right? This is a news channel. We do the news. We want you to be informed the whole way, whether you listen the whole way or not. And if you did, you made it this whole way. Thank you. Congratulations. I'm Tom Peace. You know what it is. Like, share, and subscribe, man. Hit that Patreon link. Support the channel. You know what I mean? Become a patron. Thank you, to all our patrons that support us. And thank you to everybody out here who's helping us out. Peace.